director and international public spokesperson for a global grassroots effort called 9/11 Pilot Whistleblowers, whose purpose is to show that there were no Muslim hijackers at the control of the 9/11 aircraft, but that the aircraft were electronically hijacked through employment of a system called the uninterruptible autopilot that enables a remote source to take complete control of the aircraft autopilot and flight management computers and guide the aircraft to its target. Once engaged, the pilots can no longer disconnect this system. Now, we have a website at 911pilot.org and a YouTube channel at 911 Pilots if you'd like additional information on this system or the background of the hijackers. For myself, I commenced flying over 50 years ago in 1968, and over a career span of 35 years flew 15 different aircraft, accruing 20,000 flight hours. And I can unequivocally state without reservation or embarrassment that I could not have flown the 9/11 flight profiles, and neither could the hijackers. I have with me today Captain Anders Paulsson. He lives in Portugal at present. Thank you for agreeing to be interviewed, Anders.
Thank you, Dan. Nice to be here.
Yes. Could you start off by telling us what year you commenced flying and what type of aircraft did you fly in throughout your career and the position you held on each one?
Yes, I started flying 1979. Took a private license. At the same time, I was hired to work for IBM. With the salary I had, I was able to afford a part in the plane, and I flew extensively over Europe with that. Also, later on, I moved around Sweden and went to every flying club nearby and took ratings, as many as I could. I think I had like 15 different type ratings on different single engine. And because I like the tuition, I like to try new things, and so it was like being challenged every time. So having said that, that means that I had pretty good experience with that type of airplane, ending up with a Rockwell Commander, which is quite sophisticated for a single engine. And after that, I took up I worked for IBM for 10 years, and then I took my commercial license and continued to do both flying and the IBM work at the same time for a year, flying over to Shetland Island with a Embraer Banderante every Tuesday and Thursday, I believe. And it was a great time. And the turboprop was an easier airplane to fly than the twin pistons that I took my tuition in for the commercial. So that was sort of a very interesting development. But later on, when I started to fly the four-engine jets, that would be a more difficult task. All the flying up till the jet, I did as first officer, as co-pilot. After starting with the BA E146, which is a fairly basic instrumentation, no flight management system, no special bells and whistles, but it was an interesting plane. It was one of the first where you had four engines and only two pilots, no engineer. So it was quite a workload. And we had that for 5-6 years, and then we upgraded to RJ100s, and at the same time, or slightly before that, I became captain and flew the rest of my time as a captain on the RJ100.
That is great. You certainly would qualify as an expert witness as a pilot with all those hours and the type airplanes you've flown. Would you be willing to testify under oath on camera before a federal grand jury or in a court of law what we're discussing today?
Absolutely.
Good. Let's start off with the Pentagon profile. American Flight 77, which is a Boeing 757, was allegedly flown by Saudi Arabian hijacker Hani Hanjour, 29 years old. Now, he came to the States in the mid-90s and trained on light aircraft before going back to Saudi Arabia. And in January 2001, 9 months before 9/11, he returned to the States and tried to re-enroll in the same uh, school, and they refused to accept him because he was such a poor student the first time around. Uh, and then 1 month before 9/11, in August 2001, he went to the Freeway Airport in Maryland and attempted to rent a single-engine Cessna 172, and they refused to rent it to him because he could not handle the aircraft. He couldn't take off or land or handle the aircraft. Now, according to the official story, this airplane approached the Pentagon from the west and at 7,000 feet commenced a descending, accelerating corkscrew turn to arrive precisely at ground level without skidding the surface at over 500 knots to strike the Office of Naval Intelligence. Now, just dealing with that one profile without going into the Twin Tower impacts, do you believe that the inexperienced hijacker could have flown the 5 profiles?
No, I believe that it's impossible to do that. As I said before, I believe especially the Pentagon profile is possible for the aircraft.
Right. Yes, as a matter of fact, all 3 aircraft exceeded their maximum operating speed at sea level by about 120 to 140 knots, and there's a lot of aircraft structural engineers claim that the aircraft would have come apart. So the government has a lot of explaining to do with regard to that. Now, this maneuver was replicated in a simulator, and they took a young pilot with comparable skills as the hijackers, put him in the simulator, and let him try to fly the profile. And every time he attempted it, he crashed. Then they got very highly experienced pilots behind the controls, and the same thing happened. They crashed the aircraft. So why do you believe that they couldn't have flown the profiles? Besides just discounting the excess speed that he had, why couldn't he have flown it, Anders?
I believe several reasons, and the one thing is it was flown at missile speeds and with missile precision. Thinking of the World Trade Center 1 and 2, I mean, they were off center by a couple of meters only. That's, I believe, is military precision for guided weapons. And to fly over design speed with very heavy controls, wings buffeting, and very irregular loadings on the plane because of the buffeting and all that would happen. Not being familiar with the Boeing 767. However, I mean, it's fairly the same with all aircraft, and ours would not do it, or RJ would not do that for sure with the wing profile we have. But no, I believe the precision and the speeds is a giveaway. I think that is, and also that training, of course, is not enough.
Right.
Also, other thing is that all the noise and all the stress and all the in that situation, with the ground proximity warning and all the warnings screaming out in the cockpit, it will be very difficult to maneuver heavy controls, very sensitive but heavy, and be all over the place. I can't believe that happened.
Yes. Could you have flown the profile yourself?
No.
No? Okay. Thank you.
I can say for the not the Pentagon one, but for the other 2, maybe someone could if they were very careful and flew it on automatic pilot and after training several times, and they would fail. So as you said,
Yeah.
but that there's a possibility, maybe, but it's highly unlikely, even for those.
Would you agree with me that the reason 99% of the global population fell for the official story that these guys flew the airplane was because they're not pilots and they cannot conceive of the absurdity of this notion, them flying the airplane?
Yes, it's very plausible that's the case, and as I also said, if people knew what planes really are, airliners are, they wouldn't fly on them because it's a flimsy thing that can only be used in its operational envelope, and this was way out of that. And I don't think they understand there are limits, and very, very large limits to how you operate a plane and what it takes to do it.
Yes. There's never been a criminal investigation into 9/11. People believe that the 9/11 Commission was a criminal investigation, and it was not. And pilots are demanding their day in court, and that's part of why we're doing this, because we're going to submit this to lawyers, these interviews, in hopes that they will pass it on to a U.S. attorney so that they can commence a grand jury investigation into our allegations. Do you have any closing comments, Anders?
Yeah, I have one, and I would like to thank you for doing this, Dan, and
You're welcome.
very important work, and I think it's a good way forward. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. And if you're a pilot out there listening to this interview and you would like to be interviewed yourself, just go to our website, 911pilots.org, 911pilots.org. At the top of the page, there's a Join Us tab. It's very easy to fill out the page. All we need is your name, email address, and the type aircraft you've flown, and we'll be getting in touch with you. And I'd like to thank you, Anders, for taking the time to be interviewed today. Until next time, this is Captain Dan Hanley and Captain Anders Paulsson signing off and saying so long.
Thank you, Dan.